Oh my gosh. This car is an absolute weapon. There's not many cars where I floor it and I lift off because I'm scared. So, I have owned my McLaren 765 prototype car for about a month now, and I'm ready to give you my first impressions. I just wanted to get used to the car, adapt to it, and understand its quirks and its features, and I'm ready to bring that to you now. So buckle up, you're in for a wild ride. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. I'm also going to take this car on a drive. Someone actually left a comment saying, I don't take the cars on a drive enough and they'll like to see me do that more. The reason I'm actually not doing that, I've just had a newborn child, so it's very difficult for me to film the videos and drive. That's why it's a lot easier for me to just film and talk about the car while it's there in a static form like now. But I am going to take it for a drive today. I'll bring you all of my quirks that I found and all of the interesting parts of the car. I'll also say what I don't like, what I like. You can hear that exhaust note and we can get on some nice roads. Here we go, buckle up, and like I said, if you're not subscribed, subscribe now because I'm trying to get better at this. Also, my floor needs to be cleaned. I hope that's not from the McLaren. So, as you know, a few weeks ago, I bought the McLaren 765. This one was a prototype car offered to me by McLaren. So when I say prototype, it's one of the development cars that they use, and it says XP prototype on the side. That means this car was used for testing the McLaren 765 platform. I'm not sure which part of the testing process this was used for, although I have been told that this car, they think it was for emissions testing, which is good because you don't want one that was for crash testing. Shout out to my gardeners that revived my lawn. I'm not sure if you guys remember from a few videos back, this was completely dead. The car has a staggering 765 horsepower. During my research process, I've come to find out that that's from the wheels. So this is probably putting out close to 900 horsepower at the crank. At the wheels, you're getting that 765 horsepower. That's why they call it 765. It is incredibly fast, a bit too fast for public roads. It is a limited run car. If you know me, you know I like limited run things just because that means that they hold their value a bit better. I'm not in the business of losing money on cars, but I don't always expect to make money. But in this situation, I'm excited to see what happens. You can see the Staratos in the background. This orange looks more orange than the Starato orange you'll see in a second. But yeah, it's a limited run car. 765 were made for the public's purchase. And my one is actually one of the 765. Mine is actually an XP car, like I said. So it is one of three is my understanding by the sticker on the side that says 1 or 3. So I take solace in knowing that this is slightly more rare than every other 765. The spec of my car isn't super high. Again, it was used for testing. McLaren's budget isn't massive at the moment. The car weighs 1,339 kilograms wet. So by far, it is the lightest car that we own, lightest car in the collection. It feels like when you drive it. It's also got hydraulic steering, which is a blessing in 2023, where every car now has an electric steering rack. The benefit of hydraulic steering is that you get a lot more feel through the steering wheel, which just makes the driving experience more like engaging. It feels like you're driving a really fast go-kart. The downside is that it can be hard to turn at low speeds. It is power assisted, obviously, but it's just not as assisted as like an electric steering rack. But you do get more feeling. It also means that when you're driving on the motorway, the steering wheel vibrates and jitters, which is like old cars, I guess. So that's not too bad, is it? The car also has some really interesting aerodynamic tweaks in it, just to improve it over the standard 720S, which this car is a performance version of that car. You get the elongated spoiler. That's what the LT long tail thing stands for. It's just longer by a few centimeters. It's not significantly longer like you would expect from a long tail car. You also get these elements on the side, different side skirts. You get a different front splitter as well. Explain this scratched PPF in a second. It's actually an interesting story that has left my car with a few scars. When I say scars, I mean just the PPF, which is the protective film over the car, so it's not that bad, but I'll get to it later on in the video. You get also a new front splitter and diffuser and several tweaks just set this car apart from the 720S, and it also just improves performance as well. You get this new quad exhaust system that McLaren chose to do to improve performance and also improve sound. It has a very, very nice note. I was going to say I'll play... Oh, wasp! Leave me alone, wasp. Like I was saying, you get to hear the exhaust note later, but for now, I think I'll jump in the car, talk to you a bit more about it, and then let's get it out for a drive. You get these cool up doors. They're electronically assisted. They also have soft close. There is supposed to be a badge there that says XP prototype. This is actually supposed to be there, but it seems McLaren stuck it on with glue. And when I got out of the car, I kind of put my foot on it and it fell off. So now that I'm in the car, you have a nice understanding of the size of the cabin. I'm 6 foot tall and I fit in it perfectly well. With the roof up, I have a bit more space. I also have an electric chromatic roof, which is a roof that you can tint at the touch of a button. I showed you when I collected the car, but it is a really cool feature. It's nice to use it when you're driving and it's a bit too sunny and you don't want the sun blazing down on you. I'm not the biggest fan of convertible cars. If you're familiar with the channel, familiar with my TikTok, you'll know that I constantly explain why convertible cars aren't as great as people think they are. And I keep the roof up a lot, especially on sunny days like this. But because I'm doing a test drive video of a Spider, it would be sacrilege to have the roof down. The inside of the car is great. When you look out behind you, you have the wing, which makes it super hard to see what's behind you, because this isn't even in the wing in its most erect form. It can get like this, basically. So you can't see anything behind you, which is a bit sketch. It would be nice if the rear view mirror was digital and it could see through it when you have the wing up. Inside is cool though. It's a nice place to be. Again, it's missing certain things like a glove box and other stuff. A very straightforward steering wheel. You have all your controls here on the side where you can use front nose lift, you can use cruise control, you have your wiper stalks and whatnot. They're not trying to do too much. They're trying to get it really simple and really straightforward, similar to what Porsche do in their GT cars. So I mean, yeah, it's a great experience to be in here. They have the roof controls here, you have cup holder there, cup holder there. It's really a great place to be. I just wish that this system had CarPlay. Speaking of infotainment, the Mclaren 765 LT infotainment is interesting. Let me give you a walkthrough now. I'm not a fan of it. It's in this vertical layout, which is gorgeous. It's beautiful. You have these selections over here for powertrain, and then you also have like chassis selection. So you could put the chassis, for example, in comfort like it is now, and then the powertrain in sport or track. You have the driver screen in front of you that gives you all the information you need. You can see things like tire temperature. It's a bit finicky to use at first, but you do get used to it because it's like pull to select and then push not to select is really strange. But you have tire temperature, you have like fluid temperatures, fuel level and whatnot. And if you're on the track and you want it to be a bit more focused, you just push a button here and then it switches into track mode, and then all it does is give you your RPM as well as your speed and gear, which is great for when you're pushing it out on track. You can see more out of the screen. I use it when I'm on the country roads. And to get onto the actual infotainment system, it's powered by Android. I believe it's called Iris. It's good enough, but again, I wish they added something like CarPlay or Android Auto. It does seem to be a struggle to use. It's just too old now. It's not responsive enough. It does what it needs to do, but in this day and age where people have sat nav at the tip of their fingers, you have car companies moving towards a more Tesla route, giving people more in-depth infotainment systems. The coolest thing about infotainment, if I turn it off, and this is weird that I'm going to say this is the coolest thing, if I look at the screen here, it has the amount of days left on the battery. So with supercars, they tend to have lightweight batteries, so smaller batteries, so the life of the battery isn't that great, so you usually have to keep it on a trickle charge. But with this, it gives me a great idea of how long I have left with the charge without plugging it in. I take it with a grain of salt, so when it gets to about 10 days, that's when I'm like, I must plug it in, but usually I just leave the car plugged in anyway. I'm sure that you could hack this to allow it to work with CarPlay. Lack of CarPlay is painful. When you are using the system, it just feels like it's screaming for more, and it's annoying because it's an Android system, and McLaren themselves have said it actually supports CarPlay. So why they haven't activated it, it's beyond. I need CarPlay. It'll be so much more beneficial. The infotainment sucks. Your maps suck, McLaren. I think it's time we get it out for a drive. I'll talk to you a bit more about this car. So to start the car up, you press the big red button. Kind of sounds like a tractor when it starts, almost sounds like a diesel car, which kind of takes some of the thrill away. The idle suddenly got really rough. I don't know if you can tell, but my camera's shaking a lot. So I guess it's lights out and away we go. Okay, I drive so many different cars that I sometimes forget what controls what on each of my cars. And to use front nose lift in this car, you have to keep the steering wheel straight, which is annoying, but it's because the hydraulic fluid, when you turn the wheel, gets distributed across all 4 wheels in the car to keep everything level whilst you drive. Also, another thing I hate about this car is that the front seat, if you want to raise the height, you literally have to get nuts and bolts and take the front seat apart and then raise it or lower it. The passenger seat is the same thing. Also, the passenger seat, for some reason, doesn't slide forwards or backwards. They just thought that would be a good feature to leave out, because obviously that's something unnecessary that you don't need. I only ever drive this car in manual mode. In automatic mode is actually quite nice, because the gearbox program is really good. That dual clutch gearbox is so quick. so fast, but it's so fast that I just want to control it myself. I don't see the point of letting the computer control it, especially in a car like this. Oh, you can cross the road, old lady. Pull out this roundabout, see if anyone lets me out. Although I like an aggressive car, I do not like my back to hurt, especially on these carbon fiber seats, straight out of the P1. They're not the center seats. I don't actually fit in the center seats, so I couldn't get them. But these P1 seats, I do fit in, but believe me, they're not comfortable. People try and say that they're a comfortable seat, but being the best of a bad bunch isn't a great thing. So you may have noticed the sound went a bit funny then. It's because I just realized that my iPhone was being the microphone and not my actual microphone that I paid money for. Let's see if I can overtake. You know what, let me just chill out. This car is so direct. Every time I drive it, I'm reminded of how nice it is to drive. I spent about 3 hours in the SF90 yesterday and I was like, wow, this car is incredible. It must be better than the 765 in terms of handling and in terms of vibe. And I get back in this and I'm like, yeah, this is just a track car for the road. In this car, it always feels like it may lose grip, but it always surprises me because it just doesn't. Again, this car blows me away every time I drive it. Driving it on the edge of its performance is just an incredible experience because it's so rewarding. It gives so much back to you as the driver. And anyone that's, you know, a fan of motorsports and a fan of, you know, go-karting or a fan of racing sims, you immediately understand why people say Mclaren is the driver's car. So many pops and bangs coming from the exhaust. I'm not sure if the camera's picking them up. Oh, a hearse. Let me slow down for the hearse. This car feels like it has four-wheel steering. Oh my gosh. This car is an absolute weapon. There's not many cars where I floor it and I lift off because I'm scared. But this car is just one of them. You'll either be terrified or arrested because the speeds you get from it are just insane. I have tree cover now, so it's going to save my body from being burnt by the sunlight. I've been forced to park in the shade just because I'm burning up. I feel like I may put the roof up, but I feel like I have to do it for the fact that this will convert. You know what? I'm gonna put the roof up just because, bruh, the heat is killing me. So as you can see, the roof goes up really fast. It goes up in 11 seconds, which is the fastest of all production cars on the market right now. I've got the AC on, but like, AC heat isn't, oh, there we go. The AC was off. You can see the blue roof on top of me. If I press this button here, it untints itself. So it has like UV protection. Can I have some cold air, please? I'm legitimately being cooked alive in this car. This is gonna seem so random, but mid-video I stopped to get some snacks and delights. I'm actually getting flowers for my wife. So she has an album coming out tomorrow. Her song's been playlisted on Radio 1, which is like one of the biggest radio stations. Husband celebration stuff. Welcome to England, where it's either raining and cold or too hot. Buildings here don't have AC because it was never really hot enough, but thanks to global warming, we now get like Miami temperatures. So AC needs to start being a thing in the UK. Also, the houses are made out of materials designed to keep heat in and not to cool down the house. It's also very humid heat we get here. We don't really get like breeze. When it is hot, that is, and that is not that often. So as a cruiser, the ride isn't uncomfortable at all. It's remarkably comfortable considering it's a track car. When you put the suspension in comfort mode, it does a great job of just hunkering down. When you put the suspension in a sport or track, you feel a lot more bumps. You also get less stability control in those modes, which is something I'm not a massive fan of, especially on a car of this cost on narrow streets like I'm on right now. How I managed to damage the PPF on my car and lose the 7 from my 765 badge. Basically, I was on country roads, I was in track mode. The car zigged and I zagged, and it ended up with me clipping a shrub on the side of the road. So it took off my 765 badge and it also like scratched the PPF. So I got a new 765 badge from Mclaren New Forest. When it comes to the PPF, I just have to get that redone. It should cost me about 200, 300 pounds. I almost forgot, I also lost my like toe cap cover, which is annoying. I've asked McLaren for one, so they're on the case trying to source me one, but it's not looking like an easy part to secure. I could go back to where it happened and see if I could find it, but that was weeks ago now, so it'll probably be a waste of my time. Am I going to keep this car? That is a very interesting question. I love it, I love driving it. The only thing it's missing for me is the heritage and again, the je ne sais quoi that Ferrari has. It's like having like an Android phone. Like, they're sick, but I like iPhones. Like, I'm kind of like an iPhone dude. I do love the car though, so I think I'm gonna keep it a bit longer, maybe till next summer, unless something more interesting comes along. I was thinking about getting a 488 Pista Spider, but they're like almost 100k more than this from what I last checked, for the kind of spec that I want anyway. So that's not something I'm super excited about doing, just, you know, spending more money on cars. Who am I kidding? I love this car. I'm looking for excuses to not love it, but I completely love it. And I want to keep it. It's just expensive for what it is. 380-ish thousand pounds for McLaren is outrageous. I know it's limited run. I know it performs stupendously well, but is that enough to justify the price tag? I honestly don't know. I feel like my money would be much better spent elsewhere. I feel like I can get a lot more car for my money, and a lot more reliability and a lot more like security for my money as well. I don't know what's going to happen with values of these. They're holding strong at the moment, but you just never know with McLaren. Like, I can literally, tomorrow, this car could be on fire, and it would have just happened. McLaren, you're just not the most reliable brand, although I had no issues with this car at the moment, no more than I had with like my SF90 or my SVJ. But it's just a scary thought to think that you can lose all your money so easily on a car that is like, it deserves to cost this much. But I think McLaren just messed up. They released too many cars. They were too excited. They didn't do great quality control. I heard a rumor that McLaren's quality control, they sacrificed money and decided that it would be better spent in just repairing cars if they come back, which to me is a ridiculous thing to say. But I don't know, their accountants must have agreed with it. But yeah, the McLaren 765 is an amazing car. Too fast for the public roads and too fast for the UK, definitely, but it's an amazing car to drive. If you have the opportunity to drive one, really drive it. And I know if you're interested in getting one but you're not sure, the drive will be what sways you, because it's what swayed me. I'm not even a McLaren fan. I'd like in any sense of the in any sense of the word, but now I can firmly say that I'm sort of a McLaren fan. I'm a 765 fan at least. I like the Senna too, but if I got a Senna, I'll remove the wing. But when it comes to the McLaren 765, I think it's definitely a car that everyone should try and experience. It is incredible. Incredible is just such a simple word to describe it. It's phenomenal. It's outrageous. It's special. It's unique. I think if you could get the opportunity to drive it, jump in one. I love it. Will it stay? I'm not sure if I love it enough to be unsure about what is going to happen with the prices and stuff. But I do love it enough to drive it around, rip it through the streets, and absolutely feel rewarded every time I do so. So yeah, McLaren 765, I love the car. My first impressions are this is an incredible car. I guess stay tuned for updates on whether I keep it or not. But for now, I love it. So now that I'm back home, if I press this button here, if I press this button here, okay, McLaren stuff. Let's try again. If I press this button here, I pop open the front storage space. You can see it's quite practical. I need to take this cover out. I don't know why I roll around with it. But you can get a lot of stuff in here. You can probably get 2 carry-on luggage bags. You can get a little bit of stuff in the cabin, behind the seat. This seat doesn't slide forward, which is annoying, so you can't store stuff behind there. You have a little storage pocket there and a hole for instruction manuals. There is no glove box, but there is space for flowers. But you do have a tonneau under here where you can put things to, like a laptop. It's really shallow. It is a spectacle to look at when you see it with everything open like this now. The doors up, the front trunk open, and you can't open the engine bay. But just imagine it is. I think the car looks gorgeous. People always ask me, is it a Lamborghini? And I always respond with, yes, it is. No, I just tell them it's a McLaren. That's what I mean. Like, you kind of always have to explain to people that it's a McLaren and it's not a Lamborghini. And you always have to kind of explain to people what a McLaren is. And like, they always say like, oh, what engine is it and how fast is it? It's just a whole lot of falafel. I like falafel. Well, the 765 LT is a great car. I love it. Like I was saying, I'm not sure if people should invest money into buying one right now. This car's got a story behind it, so I was a bit more willing to part ways with my cash and take the risk. But I think that this car could plummet or it could hold its value. It depends how much you love it. But the best way to decide if you like this car is take it out for a test drive, because I guarantee you, whatever you've driven short of a race car, this will drive better. So my first opinion on the 765 LT, it's a great car. I'm keeping it for the time being, unless something interesting comes along like a Senna or something. But yeah, I love it, and please don't lose value.